Hello and welcome to our virtual town hall. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to be joined momentarily by folks on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. If you want to follow me on those channels, go to @Romanoff2020. If you're here at andrewromanoff.com/live, I want to say thank you. My name's Andrew Romanoff. I used to be the Speaker of the House in Colorado and the president of a group called Mental Health Colorado, and I am a candidate for the United States Senate. Thank you very much for joining us. We've had more than 800 people sign up for this call, and I know there may be other folks coming as well. I want to start by saying I hope that you and your families are safe and healthy. That is more important than anything else we're going to talk about tonight. But there is a connection between how we weather this pandemic, how we emerge, and how we perform this campaign over the next 9 weeks or so. I'll begin with a very radical idea, so I hope that you're sitting down. You probably know that most Senate seats in America are simply sold to the highest bidder. That's the way Washington works. We have a new approach in this campaign, and you can help. We are going to try between now and the end of June, when the primary takes place, to reach everybody who can cast a ballot in this race. That means all 2.4 million Democrats and unaffiliated voters in Colorado. All of us will be getting ballots in the mail beginning in just about 6 weeks. And you have a choice among Democrats in this election. I believe I'm the best choice, but I'm a little biased. So I hope that you'll come to agree with me in the course of this conversation. And better yet, I hope you will help me make that case to the people of Colorado. When we emerge from this pandemic, and we will, the question before us will be, what happens next? Will we go back to normal? That's not good enough. Even before this crisis hit, as you know, we were seeing record increases in the number of suicides and drug addiction. We saw a record gap between rich and poor. We've seen 500,000 families in America each year, even before the pandemic came, bankrupted by medical bills, and 35,000 folks, a conservative estimate, dying in the richest nation on the face of the earth because they couldn't afford to see a doctor. Normal doesn't work. So my commitment in this race is to lay out a different vision, to say that when we emerge, we will get healthcare for all, healthcare that does not depend on your job. If you had a chance to join our town hall just last week, we made the case for improved Medicare for all with one of the nation's leading advocates for that cause, Wendell Potter. When we emerge from this pandemic, we should put millions of Americans back to work, building a clean energy infrastructure through a Green New Deal. Those proposals, to be clear, Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, they're popular with voters. The vast majority of Democrats and independents and half of the Republicans in this country support plans like those. The trouble is, of course, the political establishment in Washington and the special interests that bankroll that establishment oppose these plans. And so do two of my leading opponents in this race. I want to be very clear. I'll support John Hickenlooper if he wins the nomination. But this Senate seat doesn't belong to him or even to Cory Gardner. It belongs to you. It belongs to the people of Colorado. And what you ought to demand, the least you should expect, is that the candidates like me who are seeking your vote are willing to show up and answer questions. We're doing that every day. I myself have texted more than 250,000 voters in the last 4 weeks. When we have a late night edition of this virtual town hall, I'll read you some of the responses that we've gotten with the expletives deleted. But most people have been awfully enthusiastic because they know that we can do better. They know we can create a system of healthcare for all. They know we can build an economy that works for everyone. They know we can combat this climate crisis, and then they know we have to. And the radical part of this proposition is this. When I get this seat in the US Senate, your seat, the seat that you are helping me acquire, I'll owe that position to you, not to the corporate donors who bankroll most of the other campaigns. Literally, every day I serve in the United States Senate will be because of the contributions that you've made, your time, your talent, your treasure, if you're able. And I want to say thank you in advance. Thank you for what you've already done. Many folks who are on this call have already volunteered their time, are helping us phone voters. Adair will walk you through that process, or helping use some of the other tools we have available. But it is a radically different approach to taking a campaign than most other candidates have pursued. And it matters to me a lot. I'm on the phone or on text just about every hour with somebody who is struggling or suffering. I met a woman through the text the other day whose brother has the symptoms of COVID, whose father is 88 years old, who is facing mental illness and drug addiction, a woman who needs help. So part of what our campaign is about is not just winning this seat, it's also about connecting people to the resources they need, both now and then after we win. It's profoundly, deeply personal to me. Everything I've ever worked on is at stake in this election. Mental illness and drug addiction and suicide, domestic violence. We've seen an increase in reports of domestic violence as well. The gap, not just between rich and poor, but the wide gap between African American and white families, which accounts in part for the disproportionate toll this crisis has taken on African Americans in this country. All of those issues, questions of racial justice, environmental justice, are at stake. And I hope you'll help. You're going to hear from my team today about how you can do that. But I want to say to all of you who are struggling or suffering, who have a loved one in need, we will get through this crisis. And the question to my mind is how quickly we can emerge and whether we build, when we end this pandemic, a country, a system of healthcare, a system of economic justice that is equal to the effort that we are putting in. I don't want anybody in America to have to struggle or suffer or die on account of problems that we can fix. I promised you at the outset that I would lay out some of the differences, tell you what's at stake in this race. So let me be as pointed as I can because I'm asking you to have this conversation with voters as well. I said earlier that I will support the Democratic nominee in this race no matter what, and that's true. But I believe the best way that we beat Cory Gardner is to lay out a clear set of differences. And here is why I'm running. The climate crisis, the existential threat of our time hasn't gone away during this pandemic. I support a Green New Deal. I want to end the subsidies, $650 billion a year in direct and indirect subsidies we provide for fossil fuels. I want to put that money instead into solar, wind, geothermal, and other renewable energy sources. I want to protect frontline communities, which are bearing the brunt of oil and gas development. And I want to help fossil fuel workers take jobs in the clean energy economy, where there are twice as many jobs to be had. That's my view. Mr. Hickenlooper has taken a different approach. He's sued communities that tried to restrict fracking, literally drank the fracking fluid, takes money from the fossil fuel industry, and opposes the Green New Deal. In fact, he compares these progressive priorities that form the heart of my campaign as, in his words, the discredited ideas of Karl Marx and Joseph Stalin. That's outrageous. It's the kind of attack you expect to hear and do from Republicans like Cory Gardner. That's one place where we differ. Healthcare. I spent the last 4 years leading the fight for mental health and substance use treatment in Colorado as the president of Mental Health Colorado. I don't want to continue to subsidize an industry that bases its profits on the number of claims it can deny and the number of sick people it can exclude. That's how the insurance industry works. A better plan, in my view, is to lower the age of Medicare eligibility to 0, to make sure that we spread the risk, create a single payer universal insurance plan. We need to strengthen Medicare along the way. We need to make sure that it covers some benefits that aren't part of the package now, like dental and vision and hearing and long-term care. We need to increase reimbursement rates for Medicare providers, especially in rural and other underserved communities. That's the approach I take. Mr. Hickenlooper has taken a different approach by parroting the talking points of the insurance industry and trapping us in a system that makes your coverage depend on your job. Well, here's the problem. 47 million Americans, by some estimates, may lose their jobs by the time we hit rock bottom during this crisis, and many of them will lose their insurance too. I believe your ability to access healthcare should not depend on your job or your income or your age or your zip code. We can create a system of healthcare for all, and we can do it at roughly half the cost we're spending now. We're leading the world in spending on healthcare, not in life expectancies. We haven't succeeded in reducing infant or maternal mortality rates to the lowest rate in the industrialized world. We're just going broke. Healthcare costs, as you probably know, are the single largest source of bankruptcy in the United States. So on the climate crisis, on healthcare, on how we create an economy that works for everyone, there are real differences in this race. And what our research suggests is that when voters actually have the chance to hear the candidates in this race lay out those differences, we win. Here's the catch. We haven't had that opportunity in part because the pandemic has crowded out most of the news, understandably, in part because Mr. Hickenlooper decided to skip 19 of our debates even before the pandemic hit. We've challenged him to a series of debates. We're still waiting to hear back from his scheduler. When we win the nomination, I expect we'll have a lot more friends on our side. Progressives in Colorado and across the country will unite to defeat Cory Gardner. I'm confident of that. But what I'm asking you to do tonight is to help us reach the voters who will determine the outcome of this primary right now. We don't have any more time. I know some of you have been already generous with your time, contributed to the campaign. Again, I want to say thank you, but I'm asking you to put in whatever effort you can afford in this extraordinarily difficult period in our lives. Help us reach more voters. 100 voters would make a difference. We don't know how many exactly will show up and return their ballots in June, but we know that, as I mentioned earlier, 2.4 million ballots will go out by mail in just 6 weeks. We need to reach those folks before the ballots arrive. And that is the plan that Adair is about to explain to you. So I want to say thanks to my entire team, to all our volunteers, and to our staff, and introduce our field organizer, Adair Andre, who is on our Zoom call as well.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Adair. I'm a field organizer, part of the field team here with the campaign. And our role as a field team is, to reach the people. We're on the ground. We're a grassroots movement, and that's how we win, is through people power. We're not going to win, just by having ads on TV. We don't necessarily have the same resources that other campaigns do, like John Hickenlooper and Cory Gardner. So we need each and every person that can to get involved and help volunteer. I'm going to show you the different ways to do that right now by sharing a presentation with you all. So this is our volunteer summit. Welcome. And I'm going to go through, the different things you can do to get involved today. And the rest of my team is there in the comments if you're on Facebook or the website or on Twitter. So if you have any questions about any of the different programs, please post your questions in the comments. And they'll also post links for how to get on and sign up to all these different programs. So I'm going to talk about today the power of canvassing, which is what we do, our individual conversations with people. The best way we're doing that right now is through phone banking. We can't do door-to-door canvassing right now because of coronavirus, so we're reaching people at their homes via the phone. So there's a few ways you can do phone banking. And then I'm going to talk about Outreach Circle, which is a new app we're using to reach even more voters. And then Slack, which is the communication platform for staff and volunteers to discuss with each other. So first I want to talk about canvassing. Anyone can canvass. That's the #1 priority. Each and every person on this call can make phone calls to voters. You don't need to be a policy expert. You don't need to be Andrew's best friend to be an effective canvasser for this campaign. The best canvassing comes from the heart. We are heavily dependent on human connection, especially in times like these. People can be kind of disenchanted with the political system we have in this country. So use your human connection with others to make sure that we can send an effective message across about why Andrew's the best candidate. So your biggest assets while canvassing is using your personal story, first of all. For example, my personal story I often bring up is I'm 23 years old, I'm a young person, and I'm incredibly concerned about the future of our planet when it comes to climate change. So, Andrew is the best candidate for that. He has prioritized the climate crisis since day one. He supports a Green New Deal, and that's why he's the right candidate for Colorado. So that's just a short story for why you support the candidate. Use empathy and compassion when discussing with people, especially in times like these. People might not be getting a lot of calls from people, and listen to their concerns, and that's the best way you're going to get them excited about the candidate. And also share resources that we can, there's hotlines for coronavirus if they're struggling. Use your passion for the candidate, Andrew, and also the passion for the policies that he's putting forward and why they're so important for building a better future. So I'm going to talk about the best way that you can canvass and make a difference in this campaign right now, which is through phone banking. So phone banking is vital to our success. As I mentioned, that's the #1 way we're reaching new voters. The best thing about it is that we can reach so many people with fewer resources. Each person in just an hour of making phone calls can reach up to 100 people on our automatic dialer system. And this is our only direct line to new voters right now. So Andrew has a great circle of supporters, all of you on this call who follow him on social media, get his emails, but there's a lot of people who've never heard of Andrew or don't even know about this primary coming up. We can tell them about the primary, tell them about Andrew, why Andrew is the best candidate through just a simple phone call. Also, phone calls are very meaningful. It's a person-to-person conversation. You know, they might see several ads on TV about another candidate in this race, John Hickenlooper or Cory Gardner, but when they get a phone call and have someone who's listening to them and empathizing with their situation and telling them about how Andrew can help them in the future, it's more meaningful than a commercial. So we want to match every commercial with a phone call or a text from our campaign. So the best way to phone bank is using ThruTalk. It's our automatic dialer. It's on our website. You can get on any day from noon to 8 p.m. and make phone calls. And in 1 hour, with a bunch of people on, it can dial up to 250 people per caller. So, you know, you might not be making all those calls yourself, but they're going out and it's going very quickly. So you can connect with 20 people in just 30 minutes. So with more people on the dialer, though, it goes faster. So if you get your friends to get on at the same time, we can call thousands of people in one day. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is, as a volunteer, the dialer is the #1 thing you can have to make an impact on this campaign. I know phone calls can seem kind of scary at times, but anyone can try it for an hour, you know, give it a shot, and you can make a huge difference. So try it out, and I'm going to show you the tutorial. This is actually on our website for how to make phone calls on ThruTalk.
This is Quinn with Team Romanoff. Thank you for volunteering with Andrew Romanoff's campaign. Today I'll be showing you how to make calls from home using a dialer program called ThruTalk that makes calling caucus goers quick and easy. It is very easy to navigate once you get used to it. To use the dialer, you will need either a desktop or laptop, a cell phone, and internet connection. Headphones with a microphone are recommended but not required. You will want to start by going to www.andrewromanoff.com/dial-for-Andrew. On this page, you can get your login information by putting in your name, email, and phone number. On the next screen, you will be shown a login ID and password at the top of the screen, and a live Vox login screen where you can put that information. You can either type it in or copy and paste it into that screen. Click the Next button. On the following screen, you should uncheck the box that says Call Using Computer. It's much easier to use your phone, and the people on the other end of the line will be able to hear you better. When you go to the next screen, a box will pop up with a phone number to call and a PIN to input. Call the number with your phone and input the PIN when it prompts you. Then you're connected.
Enter your PIN, then pound. You are now connected.
While you are connected, you are always in either ready or not ready status. In ready status, calls are going out and you could be connected to the next person who answers the phone. In not ready status, you will not be taking any calls, so you can step away from the phone for a few minutes if you need to. You can see this at the top left corner of your screen. You can change this at any time by clicking the little arrow next to the word and clicking whatever status you need. If you stay in not ready status too long, the system will automatically log you out. Once you are logged in and in ready status, calls are going out from your phone. Note, the calls will not show up as coming from your phone number, and anyone who calls back will be calling a phone number with the campaign, not yours. While you are waiting for a call to be connected, you will not see the script or the name of any voter. This does not show up until you are connected with a voter. At some point, you'll hear a beep from your phone, and that means the dialer has connected with the voter who has answered. When you hear the beep, the person on the other end of the phone has already said hello, or whatever greeting they use, so hop right into the conversation. Introduce yourself and ask if you are speaking to the voter on the list. You'll see the voter's name in a box in the upper left part of the screen. Important. When you are connected to a voter, the script shows up in the middle of the screen. However, the system often automatically scrolls to the bottom of the script and you'll see the words, "Do not hang up the phone." You won't be able to see the beginning of the script and the questions to mark responses until you scroll up. Mark the script as you are talking with your voter. When your conversation is over, do not hang up the phone. To hang up the phone with the other person at any time, hit the red end call button on the left of the screen. If there is no end call button, that means the other caller already hung up. Mark the responses they gave you, make any notes that are applicable, and then you can mark one of the three options on the left. Either next call, talk to correct person, next call, no contact, or next call, remove number from list. Once you click that button, a box will pop up in the middle of the screen where you can mark ready or not ready to indicate whether you're ready to take more calls or if you will be taking a quick break. Then the process starts all over again. Very simple. You will likely talk to several people per hour as the system is able to dial multiple numbers at once based on the number of callers active at a time. This makes the most of your time as a volunteer and maximizes our effectiveness. A few things to remember. 1, when you hear the initial beep, this means someone has already answered the phone. You will not hear them say hello. Just jump right into the conversation as if you've heard them answer and make sure you ask to speak to the person on the list. 2, if you ever need to end a call, there is a red end call button on the left. This will hang up on the voter on the other end of the line, but keep you logged into the dialer. 3, at times, a voicemail will fool your system into thinking someone answered the phone. If you get that, don't worry about leaving a message. Just hit the end call button on the left and click the next call, no contact option to take another call. 4, at other times, there will seem to be no one on the other end of the line. This happens when a voter hangs up right away and you don't get a chance to talk to them. Same as a voicemail, just click next call, no contact, and move to the next call. 5, if anyone ever wants more information on the campaign than you have, feel free to direct them to our website, www.andrewromanoff.com. For any questions you have about the system, feel free to reach out to your campaign organizer or email info@andrewromanoff.com. Thanks for watching and for your support.
Great, so that's a tutorial for how to use the dialer. You can watch that at any time, andrewromanoff.com/dial4andrew, whenever you want to get on the dialer. So now I'm actually going to show you a demonstration of how to do this in real time. Hi everybody, my name is Adair. I'm a field organizer with Andrew Romanoff for US Senate. And now that you've seen a tutorial for how to get onto the dialer, I'm going to do a demonstration for you. So I'm on the dialer, have my phone called in. So I'm going to click here to start calling, or I can switch it to ready in the top left corner. And now I'm in the waiting room waiting for someone to answer. And once someone answers, you'll hear a ding, and I want to start talking right away. Look for their name in the top left corner and introduce myself.
You have reached Jennifer and Eric Martin.
So sometimes you'll get a voicemail. And if you get a voicemail, you just want to end the call on your screen. So click end call and it'll end. And then you just mark them not home. And then no contact, and then go to the next call. Hi, is Noelle available?
Yes.
Hi, Noelle. My name's Adair. I'm calling with Andrew Romanoff's campaign for US Senate. I was just reaching out because we have a primary coming up in Colorado, and I wanted to see if we could count on your vote for Andrew Romanoff in the US Senate race.
Okay, when's the vote happening?
So it's happening in June. So it's actually a primary. Yeah, it's a primary for the Democratic Party for the other races besides presidential. So US Senate is one of them. And Andrew Romanoff is a progressive candidate on that ballot.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely not voting Republican, so
That's
he's a front runner. I'm voting for him.
That's great to hear. Yeah, you're gonna get your ballot in early June. What issues are most important to you?
What issues are most important to me? Environment, education, healthcare.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, those are all big ones.
I think equal pay for equal work is really important.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Andrew definitely prioritizes all of those issues, especially the environment. He views the climate crisis as the fundamental moral test of our time. He supports a Green New Deal and has laid out a bold plan to replace fossil fuels with renewable energy. He wants to restrict fracking, and our campaign has also been endorsed by several climate groups, including Sunrise Movement, and is not funded by any corporate interest groups or fossil fuels, which is the case for Andrew, but not the case for his opponent, John Hickenlooper. He has refused to.
All those guys are, yeah, it's okay. Yes, he has my vote. So I'm going to cut it short just because I have company.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks so much for your vote.
Coming up soon.
Great. Well, thanks, Noelle. You have a good one.
Okay, you do the same. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. So yeah, I'm gonna mark her as originally undecided, but then when you scroll to the bottom, you can mark them differently if they change their mind. So I'm gonna mark her lean support because she seems like she would definitely vote for Andrew, but you know, she doesn't quite know as much about the other candidates, so I'm not gonna mark her strong support. And then just move on to the next call. Great, so that's an example of how to use the dialer. Obviously not every call goes like that, but you know, just try your best to convince people and talk to them and get them involved in the campaign if they're supportive. So I talked about ThruTalk, which is our automatic dialer. So I encourage everyone to try ThruTalk at least for 1 hour. You can try it tonight right after this call. You know, but if ThruTalk isn't for you, we do have other options. If you want to dial manually, we can send you a virtual phone bank, which is an online list that you can access from your computer. A field organizer will just send you a link, and you can make phone calls from your own phone manually. So it does come from your number. And the script is included on the call screen, just like the dialer. And it's really important that you just record all the answers as well. So I'm going to show you what that looks like if you were to do that. So we'd send you a link just like this, and you would log on or create a login. I'm already logged on here. This is Irma. She's one of our other field organizers. We made a list with her. And you can see her name, her phone number, some information about her, and you can see our script here. So I would just call her number right here, and if she didn't pick up, I'd click I couldn't reach Irma and why, and then go to the next call. If she did answer, I'd want to ask her the following questions, pick what she said, and then you scroll all the way to the bottom. You can see these various talking points here. And then you just click save and next call on the bottom right. So it's very simple, very similar to our dialer system, but you know, it's a little slower if you want to use a manual system. It's great too. So that is making phone calls. As I mentioned, the most effective way to make a difference on this campaign. So I hope everyone tries it out. But there are also other things you can do right now. But before I go into those things, I just want to talk about some common questions and best practices that come up when phone banking. So number one, this was mentioned in the tutorial, but if you don't know how to answer a question, just tell them to email info@andrewromanoff.com, direct them to the website, or better yet, send their contact information to a field team member and their question so we can follow up with them directly, make sure their question gets answered. Better to have a personal touch when we can. In terms of where we get people's phone numbers, it's from a list of public records from the state, registered voters. So sometimes people will ask you where we got our phone number. That's where we got it. When in doubt, give your personal story. You know, some people, they weren't expecting this call from us necessarily. So make sure to, you know, stimulate conversation and just give them some reasons for why to get involved or why to support the candidate. Democrats and unaffiliated voters can vote in this primary, not just Democrats. So when you're calling people, sometimes you'll get people who might not be a Democrat registered, but they can still vote in this primary. They will get both ballots, the Republican and the Democratic primary ballot. So we want to urge them to vote in the Democratic primary if they want to support Andrew. And the primary will take place on June 30th, but they'll get their ballot in early June in about 6 weeks from now. You can dial from noon to 8 any day, as I mentioned, but it's best to dial in the evenings during the week or from noon to 6 on the weekends. That's when the contact rate is highest. Sometimes you'll get an internal server error on ThruTalk. If you get that, don't give up. Just call one of our team members. It's usually a really easy problem to fix. As I mentioned before, speak immediately when you hear the ding. We don't want people to hang up because they didn't hear someone on the other end. And lastly, we are planning on doing outreach to Spanish-speaking voters soon. So if you speak Spanish and are interested in doing phone calls or texts in Spanish, let us know. We would love your help in reaching new voters. So that's phone banking. Now I'm going to move on to another platform. This is a great way to reach new voters as well. It's an app called Outreach Circle that we started using. And essentially what it is it utilizes the circles of supporters, all of you guys, to reach new people. And you can do that through social media, through texting and emailing your peers and friends and family, and also just getting updates from the campaign that you can share. And this is an app you can use on your smartphone. You can also use it on the web, but the smartphone version has more features, so I recommend downloading it if you can. So this is why Outreach Circle is an effective organizing tool, is because it uses relational organizing. So this is what that is. Oopsie. Play this video.
So what is relational organizing? Simply put, relational organizing is friends connecting with friends, and it's been proven to be more effective than traditional outreach, like anonymous phone calls or door knocking. So how can you put relational organizing to work for you? Relational organizing with Outreach Circle allows your supporters to reach out to hundreds, even thousands of their friends any way they choose, by email, text, social media, phone, or even in person, anytime, anywhere.
So that's relational organizing. And one last thing I wanted to highlight with Outreach Circle is that it is a private platform. Even though you're using your own social media and texting your own contacts, the campaign, us, cannot see your contacts' personal information. And also Outreach Circle will never market or sell your contacts, message your contacts, or advertise to your contacts. So if you're worried about that, just know that it's a secure platform, and you reaching out to your own friends through this platform will not lead to issues down the line. So that's Outreach Circle. I'm going to show you what that looks like on the web version. So if you download on the phone, it kind of looks like a phone right here. You can see these are the different actions you can take on Outreach Circle. So you can invite people to the town hall that's happening. You can join our Slack, share news on Facebook. So there's a lot of different things that you can do on Outreach Circle, and it's really simple. It just takes a few seconds to take an action. So, just hop onto our Outreach Circle platform and you can get started right away. Also, recruit your friends to our Outreach Circle. You can do that when you're on here. They're going to Impact. I actually can't do that on the web version, so I'm going to show you right here. And you just click Recruit Friends, and you can just send them this link. You can text it to them, email them, and they can join the Outreach Circle as well. So that is Outreach Circle, our new platform. And lastly, I'm going to go over our communication platform for volunteers and staff to coordinate. You can always text, email, call staff if you have questions, but Slack is a really good platform to use volunteers as resources. We have a lot of volunteers who've been working with us for a long time. They also know how to answer questions really well, and also just generally organize conversation. So people who might have the same question as you can get that answered just by going on our Slack. So it's a web page or an app that you can download also. The one thing to note is that it's not a secure platform, so anyone can get onto our Slack. So we want to be careful about what we're posting in it, making sure that, if any, person got on who wanted to screenshot it, it wouldn't be something that would, make the campaign look bad. I want to just go over a few culture guidelines with using Slack. Generally, our ability to organize collectively to elect Andrew is our first priority. That is the reason we have the Slack, so try to keep it on topic. We don't tolerate any bullying or harassment. It is a social media platform. We respect the diversity of ideologies and experience, knowing that we are all working towards the same goal. Of course, not all of us, even though we're all working on this campaign, might agree about every single thing. So just remember that the ultimate goal is to help Andrew get elected as our next senator. If you have an issue with something, address the idea, not the person. And it's always good to, if you have a question or want to bring something up to someone that you were concerned with, to make it a direct chat instead of posting in the whole channel for everyone to see. And also we have different channels I'm about to show you to keep the conversations organized and on topic. So to join the Slack, you can go to this web page, or you can download the app and begin first by reading the guidelines. They're pinned in our general channel, which I'll show you soon. So now I'm going to share a screen with you to show you how you can use Slack. So this is our Slack page. I have it online. This is what it looks like. You can see the different channels. So there's ones about canvassing, there's geographical channels, there's a hustle channel, which is the text team we use. This is the phone banking channel. You can see all the different people that have joined the channel. People can post in it. So I just wanted to point out a few features. So if you ever want to type a message, you can do this, just type in the box. You can call out specific people if you ever want to address them specifically by using the @ sign. You can, to answer a question, if you have something specific you want to bring up, start a thread with someone. And you can see that the threads have already been started on these topics. So for example, me and Alicia and I were speaking about something on this thread. And that way it keeps it organized and declutters the channel. Also, another thing to note is there are pinned posts, things that are especially important. So in our general channel, we have pinned an item, which is our guidelines that you should read when you join the Slack. So if you ever join a channel, just check the pinned posts because those are probably the most helpful things to you. So yeah, it's a pretty simple platform to use and it's just a great way to communicate. And lastly, I just want to show direct messages. You can message someone directly if you have any questions for them specifically. So that is Slack, that's our communication platform. And lastly, I just want to urge everyone to sign up to volunteer right now. Try phone banking, get on our outreach circle, and you can also sign up just by going on the website right now, and we'll give you a call and walk you through all the different ways to get involved, or just send us an email. So this is the field team. Here are our contacts. If you ever need to reach out to us, give us a call, send us an email. And thank you all for joining today. I'm going to kick it back to Andrew now to wrap things up.
Thank you so much, Adair. You can't hear the applause, but I know that there are hundreds of folks clapping at home. And there are hundreds of folks actually on this call right now. So again, I want to say thank you to all of you. So many folks have volunteered for this campaign. I'll just offer you a few thoughts in closing. First, what we're going through is a very transparent process. I recognize there may be some folks on this call who aren't part of our team, and that's fine. We're trying to make this campaign as transparent, as accountable, as responsive as I hope to be if I'm elected to be the United States Senator. It's also a point of contrast, frankly, between our campaign and Cory Gardner's service in the Senate now. You probably know that Senator Gardner hasn't held a town hall meeting in our state in about 2.5 years. No great surprise. If you had a record like his, you probably wouldn't be coming home to brag about it either. We're committed to staying in touch with our voters. And I tried to explain this at the outset. Maybe in my exuberance it didn't come through, but I'll tell you, having had the chance to win 4 elections in the State House by knocking on doors, I set out in the course of this campaign, which we started in February of last year, to try to replicate that experience. It's hard to do because there are too many doors to knock on, and now you can't knock on any of them at all. So instead, we asked you to host events, and we did hundreds of events in backyards and living rooms, coffee shops and brew pubs. I used to tell folks I was available for weddings and bar mitzvahs. This is what a grassroots campaign looks like. As you know, we can't do those things right now. So we're trying to simulate this in a virtual campaign by talking to folks directly. I find as I'm doing this, and even tonight I'm getting more texts in, that a lot of folks don't believe they're actually hearing from a Senate candidate. They're asking me to send them selfies or pictures with today's newspaper and the date on it. I'm not doing that, by the way. But what I find in the course of these conversations is people are very candid about the struggles that they're facing. I mentioned this at the outset too. But when you're making calls on our behalf or communicating with folks, I hope that you will help connect them to resources and ask us if you need help doing that. I'm doing this every single waking hour of every day, trying to make sure that folks get the support they need in case, as one gentleman told me today, he was in danger of being evicted. Somebody else needs help finding a way through the unemployment maze. A number of folks are facing mental health crises, which is one of the consequences of this pandemic. So this campaign is not just about winning a Senate seat, although that's important, or flipping the US Senate, although that's important too. It's also about helping people weather this storm. It's a commitment I made when we started this race, when we didn't anticipate a crisis like this. And it's a commitment that we're going to redouble now that we're facing such an unprecedented moment in American and world history. And I hope you'll help. I know that there's a lot of conventional wisdom that says the only way you win this race is by spending the most money, by putting the most ads on TV, by trolling for dollars among the special interest groups in Washington. If those are the rules, then we won't be successful if that's the only way you can win. But here's the thing. America won't succeed by that strategy either, not at least in creating the kind of democratic republic we deserve. If the only way you ever get elected to a high office like this is by being a multimillionaire or befriending one, I think we will continue to dramatically narrow the pool of candidates who run, certainly the pool who win, and warp the decisions they make as a result. This is the really revolutionary concept that we're trying to communicate and execute in the course of this campaign. Imagine, if you will, a United States Senate made up of people who were in touch with their constituents, who actually heard the stories, the lives, the experiences, the hardships, the struggles, the pain that people are facing right now, and took action on what they heard. That would be a very different approach from the Senate we've got now. And this is not just about moving a seat from red to blue, although that's critical. It's about shifting the United States Senate from paralysis to progress. Our campaign is premised on a set of progressive priorities. I mentioned the Green New Deal and Medicare for All, how you build an economy that works for everyone. Most Americans embrace that agenda. The Senate does not. So our challenge is to translate the broad consensus that exists outside of Washington into action in that capital city. I can't do that alone. Nobody can. So I'm asking you, if the several thousand folks who have joined our Zoom town halls over the last few weeks, if even a fraction took the advice that Adair so eloquently offered, took advantage of the tools that we've laid out for all to see, and helped us communicate with some of the 2.5 million voters I mentioned earlier who are going to be participating in this primary, a couple of things would happen. One, we'd win this race, going away, no question about it. But two, we'd actually get a United States Senate, at least a Senate seat from Colorado, that reflected the priorities that we bring. It's not enough just to replace Cory Gardner with a generic Democrat. We need to put somebody in this position who brings the courage of our convictions to this fight. We deserve leaders who will act, in other words, as if our lives depended on it, because they do. Thank you for sharing so much of your time. If you're willing to get involved, I hope you'll go to our website, andrewromanoff.com. If you don't have time but still have a few bucks hanging around, I hope you can make a contribution as well. We don't take money from special interest groups, but we do take money from you. So please go to andrewromanoff.com, chip in, get involved, host a virtual event, and join us again every Tuesday at 5 and every Friday at noon Mountain Time as we continue these virtual town halls. Stay well. Thanks again.